my colleagues, and my apologies for coming late. There's a general principle of governance that anything that is essential must be local. So for instance, if water or electricity were essential, you have to localize it. You couldn't produce water, for instance, from Sokoto and pipe it down to Port Harcourt. Security is local and has to be, it's essential and has to be local. Bearing that in mind, obviously I support devolution of policing, but that's only one aspect of it. The fear is the abuse. To get around that, I think the first charge is let's deal with our judiciary. As long as our judiciary is not up to scratch, then there'll always be that fear. So it works, judiciary and policing, it's all law and order. If we don't get the judiciary right, where there's recourse to abuse, because it will be abused. Even the federal police is abused daily. So the abuse will be there, but now you're devolving the abuse, as it were. If you have a weak judiciary, if you have the kind of judiciary we have now, and I'm not here to exculpate the judiciary, but if you don't do anything about it at that level, then the fears that have been expressed by various sources and various people would be real. Now, are we going to have a perfect system? No. But let's remember one thing. 80% of policing is intelligence gathering. Only 20% is enforcement. As it were, the intelligence aspect of our security is very, very weak. You would think, for instance, that Boko Haram, that has been around with us for over 15 years, we should have infiltrated their ranks by now to know who they are, how they operate, the source of funding. We're still groping in the dark. Foreign countries have more intelligence about our environment than we do. We spend more time in enforcement than intelligence gathering. And like I said earlier, intelligence gathering is 80% of policing work. But they go hand in hand. We can postulate all the virtues of local or state policing or local policing, community policing. But if you don't have a strong stopgap in the judiciary or the magisterial level or whatever levels,
okay,
I think it'll be an exercise in futility.
And the question is, what's your position on fuel subsidy? Do you support its removal, or its, I wouldn't say retention now, because it's non-existent at the moment? But what's your position on fuel subsidy?
You can't remove what doesn't exist. I postulate there's nothing like fuel subsidy. You see, from every barrel of oil, there are about 7 or 8 products, depending on the type of crude oil you have. Some even have as much as 12, right? The ones that really pertain or concern us are PMS, petrol, and diesel, largely, maybe LPG. Now, if you refine it, there's some that, like aviation fuel and all that, those that have premium value. Petrol, because it's an engine, and diesel, because it's a fuel that runs your economy, and it's a gift that nature has provided us with. Honestly, economically, there's no subsidy in that thing, right? Because you see, when we were doing swaps, we said about 300,000 barrels of oil in exchange for petrol. No one ever mentioned the byproducts. No one knows what went to it. And that's why I believe it's the biggest scam that has been perpetrated in this country. I don't believe there's a subsidy. But even then, look at it from another angle. If you, for instance, the moderator, you are a farmer and you produce 10 tons of maize annually, and you consume 1 to keep your workers going, to keep your family going, are you subsidizing your family? This is a gift that nature's endowed us with. We cannot compare the price of petrol, where we produce or we have the raw material for, with that operating in countries that do not have. Okay. Right? You've got to use what you've got to get what you want. And okay. So one last word. For me, the overall essence of government is productivity of its people. So if that is the vision or the mission statement of government, all the factors that have to do with productivity must be made abundantly available.
Okay.
We have all known forms of energy, from the crudest, which is slavery. Slavery was about energy, to hydrocarbons, solar, water, you name it. The other argument people come up with, which I find nonsensical, is that, oh, if energy is cheap, yes, petrol is cheap, yeah, it'll find its way across the borders. Are you going to punish your citizens due to your inability to police your borders? And besides, you can dye your petrol a peculiar color. You have NIA and all these agencies around, and they can trace it back. But I think there's a lot of mental laziness when it comes to the administration of the country.
The question is, if the federal government told us last week that we saved as a country 15.8 trillion, so where did our savings come from? If you say there's actually no subsidy anywhere, where did the savings come from then?
That's if you believe what they say.
Are you saying the federal government is lying to us?
That's if you believe what they say. I'll repeat that. I don't believe what they say. And I've been privileged to be involved. This whole subsidy thing started during the reign of General Abacha, right? And I was a member of the National Economic Intelligence Committee at the time. And we went through the books one after the other in great detail. You can sell petrol in this country at 200 naira a litre if you wanted to, because there are other products to be sold. And besides, it's the engine of your economy. The inflation you fight today is, you see, look, the central bank puts interest at 30-something%. That is negative for productivity. And they'll tell you it's based on inflation. It's not the interest rates on the banks that cause inflation. It's the ballooning of government.
Okay.
Spending recklessly and not investigating the things that really cause. Our monetary policy and fiscal policy are disconnected completely. One works against the other.
Okay.
The audience, lest we forget, my friend, the vice presidential candidate for APM, lest we forget, is my friend, was DG SSS that tried to shut down the National Assembly. And I remember another friend of mine there, Bajabi Amila, I recall him trying to jump the fence at the onslaught of his men. So let's be careful what we pray for. Having said that, he wants to be vice president under a democratic system now. The fundamental problem with Nigeria is leadership. And we are gathered here to determine what will be the appropriate leadership. If we get the leadership right, literally everything will fall into place. We need to ask ourselves, what is the fundamental essence of government? I dare say it is the optimal productivity of her citizens within a safe and orderly environment. If that is the mission statement of every government, then it leads to the next question, ethnicity. We don't hate ourselves. The issue is inadequacy. You see, when there's not enough to go around, I've got to use what I've got to get what I want. So in the face of the broad and general inadequacy in our society, I'm going to pick my tribe as an advantage over yours, or over my competitors, or my religion. So if we are able to build a country that can adequately cater for all of us, who cares if you're from the north or the south, or you're Hausa, you're Igbo, or Efik, or whatever you are? Who cares what religion you belong to? That's private to you. So until we address that, the issue of inadequacies in our society, in our country, ethnicity, religion, and all that has to do with it will come to play. In my state, Cross River, there are 29 ethnic groups, and they play each other because there's not enough to go around.
Okay.
The next thing, no.
Can this be the last?
Wait.
Can this be the last, please?
No, well.
The last, please.
Okay. Someone asked about coalitions. Let me say this. We operate a democratic system, fine. But there are two types of governance systems. The presidential, the parliamentary, and a hybrid sort of. The presidential works efficiently when there are two major parties, because there's an opposition. In the parliamentary system, you can have several parties, and that which has the majority in parliament produces the prime minister. But honestly, and I agree with this question, we all have to come together to operate the presidential system, not just this run of 27, but generally going forward.
Okay.
There was some sense in the government setting up SDP, NRC. Unfortunately, usually the parties that set up the government and not the government that sets up a party. So that was a twist to that. But really, for our presidential system to work, there must be two major platforms. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can I